31 workers have been safely removed from an industrial tunnel after part of the structure collapsed. The workers were up to 6 miles away from the tunnel's only entrance. There were no major injuries. President Trump has announced 50% tariffs on imports from Brazil. He said he's imposing the taxes because of the country's legal charges against its former president, who is friends with Donald Trump. This is SRN News.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
Hi, my name's Neil. I have some advice for you if you've been trying to break free from credit card debt. You can start by doing what I did. Get your bills together and call Trinity Debt Management. Trinity is dedicated to helping people like me become debt-free. When I called, my first experience was a feeling of relief. My counselor was kind, and best of all, she didn't judge me. In just a few minutes, she helped me figure out a plan that consolidated all my bills into one lower monthly payment. This substantially reduced my high interest rates and put me on the road to success. In the end, I saved thousands in interest, and today my credit card debt is a thing of the past.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-936-5496.
My name is Neil. Take it from someone who's been there. Call Trinity and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-936-5496.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
Convenience just got an upgrade. Farmers State Bank of Oakley is excited to announce the opening of our brand new ATM along Highway 40, right next to Sonic Drive-In. Whether you're grabbing a snack or on the go, you can quickly access your cash without the detour. It's banking made easy, right where you need it. Farmers State Bank of Oakley, member FDIC.
Today will still get hot, reaching into the mid-90s ahead of an afternoon cool front that will trigger some scattered showers and storms along the line from Tribune to McCook. Some could be severe with damaging wind gusts to 60 to 70 miles per hour. Otherwise, it'll be mostly sunny. Southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour will turn to the northwest at 15 to 25 as that front moves through, and lows will drop into the lower 60s behind it tonight. Tomorrow and Saturday, a Pacific trough will move through, bringing much cooler temperatures, highs in the 80s, lows in the upper 50s and low 60s, as well as chances for scattered showers and storms Friday evening through midday Saturday. There's marginal risk that some of these storms could be severe with strong winds and large hail. Sunday and Monday dries out and heats up into the 90 to 95 degree range. And then another trough will bring a round of showers and storms into the forecast Tuesday and Wednesday, with high temperatures in the 80s and lows in the upper 50s and low 60s. It's meteorologist Chris Romick in the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities, contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Summer is heating up, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby has everything you need to make the most of it. Tame that lawn with top-notch weed and feed from Ultimate Fertilizer, and keep those bugs away with powerful pesticides. Plus, Ego mower, blowers, and trimmers to get that job done fast. Fire up some summer flavor with a Traeger grill or a Blackstone griddle, and if you're building a fence or even fixing a sprinkler, they've got the building materials and supplies to keep your projects moving. Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, your summer project headquarters.
Summer deals are heating up at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland. Right now, get up to $7,000 off a brand new 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Pro. Or choose 0% APR for 36 months plus no payments for 90 days on select 25 Sierra 1500s. Need more muscle? Drive off in a 25 Sierra 3500 with 3.9% APR for 48 months. Or grab $2,750 select market purchase allowance. GMC Professional Grade. These offers won't last. Swing by Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today. Online at hurlchev.com.
Let's face it, Many of us plan our vacations down to the hour, the activities, the food we want, and the people we'll see. So why not save our family the grief and stress when we leave this world? Why not inquire about rearranging our funeral and celebration of life? Call Coons Russell Funeral Home in Goodland for their assistance. They've made it so much easier on families in times of stress. Call or visit CoonsRussellFuneralHome.com.
Looking for insurance that actually puts you first? At the insurance agency in downtown Goodland, we're independent, which means we work for you. Whether it's auto, home, crop, or business, we shop top carriers to get you the best coverage at the best price. No pushy sales, just honest advice from people who live right here in your community. Give us a call today at 785-899-5011 or stop by 1020 Main in Goodland and let's get you covered. The Insurance Agency. Insurance the way it should be.
It's harvest time here in the state of Kansas, and it's time for a harvest safety tip. Developing an emergency communication plan is essential. Most likely you won't need it, but if you do, you'll be glad to have it. These plans ensure that when there is an emergency situation, everyone will know how to respond the right way, possibly saving you time and potentially a life.
Brought to you by Oakley Country Club, Smoky Hill Ag, Colby Automotive, FMB Bank, Laura Electric, Hoover Lumber, Vince's GM Center, Downland Jewelry, Farmers and Merchants Bank, and Next Tech Wireless.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
If you want to win in football, it all starts up front. Mass kicks ass.
The High Plains only local sports talk show.
Listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about.
Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Covering it all from the preps.
Up ahead to Blair Lennon. Lennon, the crossover, back to Cure. Hello, boom! A two-handed tomahawk flush.
To the pros.
Shotgun snap to Nix. Protection is good. Bold loads it up. He's got it. A receiver there. Franklin makes the catch in the end zone. Touchdown, Denver.
The Blitz is presented by Earl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank. Along with the Insurance Agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
With those. Oh, there it is. Holy good timing. My goodness. Way out of here. Whoa! A three-wall home run to straightaway center field. 466 feet.
Says Trout lines one out to right field. Hit pretty well. Garcia going back. It's going to go. It's gone. Off the video board. Trout second tonight. And the Angels have a 6-5 lead.
Perdomo cranks one down the line. That ball's headed for the corner. And there it goes. Geraldo Perdomo with a grand slam in Slam Diego. And it's 6-0 Diamondbacks.
And good Thursday morning, everybody. Off and rolling on July the 10th. Partly cloudy, 71-degree today start. Going to be another hot one today. Temperatures expected to make it into the mid-90s. And some chances of some storms. I do want to pass along, in the next couple of days, got some decent chances of storms possible. Slight margin of severe thunderstorms this afternoon, evening, starting around 3 Mountain, 4 Central, moving from east of McCook. I should say on a line starting from east of McCook down to Tribune and moving east this evening. So we'll see. Mostly talking about wind, some quarter-size hail mostly. But could be some possible some severe thunderstorms today. Into Friday as kind of a bigger risk for that, and then a few possibly on Saturday. We will see. But anyway, there's your kind of weather outlook here on this Thursday morning. Glad you're tuning in and listening to the Morning Blitz, no matter if it's on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream or NWKSradio.net. Of course, the old school way right here on the radio, Rocket 1025. Appreciate you tuning in today. Today's program, we will have some fun with Look at Yourself coming up in segment 3. What has someone done wrong? We will get to Riley Gates of On 3 Sports joining us coming up here in segment number 2, discussing more on Big 12 football media days, because it's about the only thing going on. I mean, it truly is about the only thing that's really happening in the world of sports. Is that the Big 12 football media days, and of course Major League Baseball, where last night the Royals picked up another win over the Pirates. They sweep the Pirates and did it by pretty much the long ball. I think that the biggest stat that I saw from that series as the Royals won 4-3, had a couple of massive shots, a 444-foot bomb from Salvi, and Caglione goes out there and hits a 466-foot tank into center field. I mean, just the ball was flying out of the ballpark yesterday at the K. But the stat of the day is the Royals. They entered the series with the Padres having hit only 15 home runs in 44 home games this year. We knew power had been an issue, particularly at home. The Royals then proceeded to hit 9 home runs across this 3-game sweep of the Pirates. So 15 entering that series of 44 home games, end up with 9, almost doubling it in a single series. So Salvi finds the power. Jack Caglione has found the power a little bit here. We'll see if this trend continues. But Royals, by the way, I think have won 5 of 6. Really playing well as they get a win last night. Rockies, by the way, another rough night. They actually, if you would have not paid really attention, you would have noticed that the Rockies lost to the Red Sox with the same exact score that they lost to last time, 10-2 to the Red Sox last night. So that's like I said. Other than that, we're not. There's not much else really going on in the world of sports. I know there's some Wimbledon happening and stuff, but I don't think a lot of people honestly care a ton about Wimbledon. But like I said, today we'll talk with Riley Gates of On3 Sports. But I want to get into, in segment number 1, some thoughts on the Big 12 Football Media Days Day number 2. As always, the F&B Bank text line is open at 785-899-2222. If you've got thoughts, comments, opinions, anything, something you want to bring to the table, would love it. Anything would be awesome here on this Thursday morning, and any morning, honestly. So shoot us a text message on the FNB Bank text line at 785-899-2222. You can also comment, of course, on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream on X, Facebook, and YouTube. We can see those comments on our screen. So, like I said, be a part of the show if you would like to do so. All right, so yesterday, day 2 and the final day of Big 12 Football Media Days, wrapping up down there in Frisco, Texas. There were 2 regional teams getting a chance to visit with the media, Colorado being one and Kansas being the other. Just the kind of the overall encapsulating thing. So just kind of starting with Kansas. Lance Leipold addressing the media, the big things that Coach Leipold brought to the table. He highlighted quarterback Jalen Daniels, his leadership and resilience, dealing with injuries, but coming back and wanting to try and finish out his career the right way, calling his energy contagious. He really expressed confidence talking about the running back position with the departure of Devin Neal, with Daniel Highshaw and the Iowa transfer of LaShawn Williams being a couple of key guys for them going forward, it looks like. Then, of course, talked about lots of other things in the game, roster retention, portal strategy, changes to the offensive staff for a big conversation most of the day, talking about, change the offensive staff, particularly the offensive coordinator, Jim Zabrowski, and how he's going to guide the Jayhawk offense this year. So those were kind of the key points. Now diving into a couple of thoughts, he also, a couple of more, diving a little bit more deeper into this, so from Lance Leipold's comments. So there was a fun fact that I came across that I did not know yesterday, that in the last 2 seasons of portal changes, Kansas has had the fewest scholarship players enter the portal. And so to me, that it really says something about, and I don't want to sit here and say that Kansas is probably out there paying their players ridiculous amounts of money to where they just want to stay because they're getting paid unbelievable amounts of money. It's probably a great combination of finding guys that want to be there and finding sometimes you just find the right level of guy that comes in, is happy there, and wants to develop underneath the coaching staff. And you got to give a ton of credit to Leipold and his staff for doing that. It's a hard thing to do in today's college football, is to be a team that brings in guys, develops them, and then heck, even graduates them at times. That's amazing. Or gets them to the NFL. And they had an offensive lineman that did that, and he left after his junior year last year, which, by the way, was another topic of conversation about the offensive line, asking about how they're going to fill those spots, and feels pretty darn good about that with two guys going to the NFL and graduating. So Leipold felt good about that. But I just thought that was such an interesting fact that Kansas just has really not had, and you could probably say the same thing about Kansas State if we're being completely honest. I mean, they have not had that many scholarship players enter the transfer portal. It's development it's develop and supplement with these two teams in Kansas love to develop, bring in guys, develop them, and then supplement those guys that unfortunately maybe did not make it or didn't live up to the expectations, and supplement that with the portal. And that's what that's what every team would love to do. And Kansas State have done. I think that's why we've seen them have some decent success. I know Kansas didn't last year, but let's face it, I think a lot of that relies on quarterback Jalen Daniels, who, once again, we talked with Henry Greenstein earlier this week about that, and, wanting to, talking about how much he means to this team, and how much he can carry this team, because he's he could be at sometimes he's looked like a first team all-league quarterback. At other times, he just can't stay on the field because of injuries. And I think that has a lot to do with that. But some other topics that they highlighted with Kansas football yesterday, Big 12 Football Media Days. They talked about the running backs again, the Daniel Highshaw, an Iowa transfer, LaShawn Williams. I mean, when you lose Devin Neal, who's a really good running back and was one of the better ones that Kansas has had in recent years, you would think that, well, they're going to have a massive drop-off. I don't know if we're going to see much of a drop-off. Daniel Highshaw did a really good job filling in the last couple of years. He's been really just about as solid a player as Devin Neal has been. So I think they're not going to have much drop-off there. And Iowa transfer LaShawn Williams, even though I don't know much about him, I do know that he went to Iowa. And if there's one thing that Iowa knows how to kind of recruit and develop, it's running backs. They're really good at that. They can't get the quarterback position right to save their life. They have struggled with that for years. Now, they might have the answer this year with the transfer from South Dakota State, the Grodkowski guy. But running back is an area they know. Now, there may not be big-name running back guys like they're in the Heisman race, but they know how to run the football. They understand where to run, how to run, physical runners, how to break away when they get to the back end of the defense. I feel like with LaShawn Williams and Daniel Highshaw, they're going to be in just as good a spot as they were last year at the running back spot. So I think the running back position could be really good. They will need, of course, help in the offensive line like we talked about. They got to fill a few spots. And Bryce Foster, their star center, is going to miss the start of camp. He had a minor cleanup surgery, it sounded like, here a week or two ago, and he did not even make it to the media days, even though he was scheduled to be there. And then, a lot of conversation, as we kind of put a little bit of a bow on Kansas, was talking about offensive coordinator Jim Zebrowski. And Leipold kind of gave his thoughts on Jim Zebrowski, because last year's Kansas offense was not good. Struggled with turnovers. Daniel struggled with turnovers. But it didn't look very good. The offense looked so great underneath Andy Koltanecki, and I think he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the country. That's my opinion. I think he's one of the best in the nation, and he's still at Penn State. And look, Penn State's offense was a whole lot better last year than it had been in previous years, and I think that has a lot to do with Koltanecki. And my guess is if Koltanecki continues this trend, he's going to have his own head coaching job pretty soon. But Koltanecki left Kansas, where he had a great offense, a fun offense, left it. And then, they were kind of left to pick up the pieces with the guy who left for Wisconsin. I can't think of his name, and Jim Zebrowski. But Leipold, in some audio here that I have, talked about Zebrowski and the confidence that he has in having him run the offense, and he thinks that it's all going to work out.
Jim Zebrowski was the first person I ever hired as a head coach when he gave up a Division III coaching job in Wisconsin to join us at Wisconsin Whitewater. So I've got a good idea what Jim is as a play caller. He called the bowl game in Arizona in the 23 season. I think we had 400 yards of offense in the first half. So, Jim's got thick skin. He understands where it is. He's a guy that's going to stay aggressive in the game, and he's a passionate ball coach. I know he's going to do a good job.
I just don't have any like I said, I don't know if you can put it all on Zebrowski. I think once again, this whole offense will run and go with Daniels for the most part. That's just my opinion. If he can stay healthy and he can protect the football, I think this offense will be just fine. That's my personal opinion. But anyway, yeah, I think, and then of course, Jalen Daniels talked about, that chemistry with Zebrowski and how that's going to be important. He's been around for a while as Zebrowski, knows Daniels, they know him. Of course, don't forget Matt Lubick was hired on as well as an offensive coordinator, co-offensive coordinator. He'll bring some ideas and stuff there to help out, particularly when it comes to option football and things of that. So, like I said, I think Kansas's offense will take a step forward this year, despite I think a lot of question marks surrounding it. So that's kind of the overall synopsis, I think, of Kansas and Coach Leipold and everything that I kind of saw from yesterday that I witnessed. If you think there was something bigger as well, you can chime in on the FP Bank text line at 785-899-2222. But moving on to Colorado, and it was a big deal, as it usually is with Coach Prime. He gets to the stage. Everyone was wondering how he was doing, his undisclosed illness, but he said, quote, "God has truly blessed me," end quote. He praised the Big 12, thanks those who checked on him, and proudly noted Colorado's third straight season of sold out tickets. They talked a lot of the big conversation on the field stuff was about the quarterback battle between Liberty transfer Caden Slater and freshman Julian Lewis, which they brought both of them there, and Julian Lewis said, I was just happy. He says, I was surprised to get to come, but if Coach Prime says I'm going to come here, that means he must think that I'm one of the guys that needs to lead this team. So I know I think there's two quarterbacks, and more on this in just a minute. But these two quarterbacks, they're just a little bit different. I think Lewis is going to be much more of what Shadur Sanders was, stay in the pocket and throw. Or I think you could see Slater run the ball a little bit more if things break down. Another thing they talked about, Coach Prime highlighted, talked about his young wide receiver group, which, look, as long as Coach Prime has been there, the wide receivers have been good. Whether it, of course, was Travis Hunter or Jimmy Honk the Horn or Amari Miller. There's tons of guys. That wide receiver room is deep, and I think they are talented. Can the quarterbacks get them the ball? We'll find out more. But he talked about the talent there. And then he also, which we'll get to in just a little bit, talked a little bit about salary caps and pro-style rules for college football to bring more structure to an evolving landscape. More on that in just a minute. That was probably the most interesting thing I thought Coach Prime said. But this was Coach Prime, a quote that he had talking about his quarterbacks. He said, "We brought both of them because I don't know which one's going to start. Yeah, as long as they're doing their jobs and we're winning. We definitely want to continue to develop Juju, but Caden is unbelievable. He's off the chain. He's been there, done that. He can get the job done. I wouldn't have brought him here if I didn't trust him. But Juju's coming around the mountain when he comes, and I love him. I love what he brings to the table. I don't know how it's going to play out. As long as it plays out, we can't lose either way with those two." That's a quote from Coach Prime on the quarterback situation there, which sounds like both guys are going to play, and we'll see what happens if they can get the win. But anyway, Coach Prime, I'll play the audio for you first. They asked him questions. And one of the biggest things that he brought up to the table on things I'd like to see changed in the game of college football with where we are right now, and mostly talking about the portal, NIL, and stuff. He talked about a college football cap. Here's Coach Prime on that.
I wish it was a cap. Like the top of the line player makes this. And if you're not that type of guy, you're not going to make that. That's what the NFL does. So the problem is you got a guy that's not that darn good, but he could go to another school and they give him $500,000 and you can't compete with that. That don't make sense. And you're talking about equality, not equality, like equal, I guess so, equality. And all you have to do is look at the playoffs and see what those teams spent. And you understand darn near why they're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to compete with somebody who's giving $25-30 million to a darn freshman class. Right. It's crazy. We're not complaining because all these coaches up here can coach their butts off and give them the right opportunity with the right players and play here and there, you'll be there. But it's what's going on right now don't make sense. And we want to say stuff, but we're trying to be professional. But you're going to see the same teams darn near at the end, and with somebody who sneaks up in there. But the team that pays the most is going to be there in the end.
Yes, that is that's one thing I do like about Coach Prime. He does tell it like it is, and that's the truth. I love his comment there at the end talking about how, well, the teams that spend the most money are probably going to be the ones that we see there at the end again. And he's right. And he's also right about, certain schools are paying, 25, 30 million for a freshman class. Texas would be one of those. Texas would be probably the biggest one on that. But nonetheless, that's a lot of money that gets thrown around, and then they have the money. Now, once again, if any of the coaches, not just Coach Prime, but no matter if you're Coach Prime, Coach Kleiman, you were in that situation, you had that money, you probably would throw it around if you had it. You just don't at this situation. And so you got to make it, like he said, you got to be professional and you got to do what you got to do. And he is right. A couple of good players, a couple of breaks, and a couple of good coaching decisions could put you in the college football playoff. But most of the time when you get down to the end, it's going to be the teams that have the best money. So he wants to see a cap in college football, which I don't know how you work that, honestly. I don't know how you make that work. I've talked about it before, a certain, seniors make a certain amount of money, juniors make a certain amount, capping on how much money you can make. I've seen that. I've seen that thought before. And I guess I would be okay with that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that, honestly. That's one thing I don't know how they're going to do, in that situation. So yeah, and then he another interesting comment he said he wanted more NFL rules in the college game, including like the one that he brought up. I know that he brought up that caught my eye was he wanted 2 feet in bounds, on a catch. So if you throw the football, wide receiver makes a catch, got to get 2 feet in bounds. Start making it more like pro football. That is an area I will push off on and say no, I don't want that. I don't need that. 1 foot is just fine in college football for me. Make the pros the pros. This is the college game. That changing the rule in the rules games within the rules within the game don't really, I don't think, need a whole lot of impacting. I don't think the problem is that there is a whole bunch of stuff that has to get done outside of the game. And that's the area where I think coaches, people, fans, administrators are all mad because it just doesn't come together. And the amazing thing is, and this is the amazing thing, watching the comments of coaches and seeing the discussions, the coaches all seem to be on the same page. And I'm guessing administrators are probably all on the same page. The problem is they just can't get someone to lead because they can't agree on that. That's the amazing thing. Like, I think all the coaches and stuff are kind of on the same page and would like to see these certain rules in place. A short little portal window, probably in January, cleaning up the calendar for the year. All that kind of, maybe putting, a limit on how much you can have on your roster, how much you can pay certain players, putting limits. They would love to see all that. The problem is there's just so much red tape to go through that it's becoming impossible to do. That's the hard part. But it's amazing to see that a lot of coaches and administrators are kind of all on the same page on making the game better, but they just can't get on the same page because there's just too much red tape to get through. That's amazing to me. But it's the truth. That is the absolute truth. Another thing, real quick, before we get to break here and bring on Riley Gates of On3 Sports, and we'll continue this conversation more on the Big 12 Football Media Days. But I think another thing that stands out to me about this about this Big 12 Football Media Days is that you kind of have 3 different levels of when you talk about Kansas, Kansas State, and Colorado. You kind of have 3 different levels of coaches. You kind of have Leipold, who doesn't really get, at least yesterday, he doesn't really get too much involved with talking about, the portal and NIL. He doesn't talk a lot about it. He's more of just on the field stuff. That's what he kind of talks about. Then you get to coach on the other end of the spectrum. You've got Coach Prime, who talks about that stuff and has his opinion. And this is all fine. I'm not saying it's a problem, but then gets on his high horse about all that stuff. And I can't say I disagree with him, but he's not afraid to get out there and say these things and try and lead the change and all that stuff. So you kind of have Leipold who's like, I can't do anything about it. I'm not really going to say anything about it. I'm just going to work and do what I can. Prime's like, well, I'm going to make comments about all this stuff and push it and all this stuff. I get it. And then you get Kleiman, who's like right in the middle. He is a very much on the field football coach, developing players, all that stuff. But at the same time, he's also kind of one of those guys like, we need to push for some change. He's kind of the perfect mix of Leipold and Kleiman when it comes to kind of just how they deal with the media and talking about the offseason. That's just what I've just kind of noticed over the last couple of days. All right, let's get to our second segment. After this break, we'll bring on Riley Gates of On Through Sports. He'll have his thoughts on Big 12 football media days as we continue to push forward here on a Thursday edition of the Morning Blitz. Stick around.
Are pests making your home or business uncomfortable? Call Pest Away in Goodland, Kansas, serving all of Northwest Kansas. They provide top-notch pest control services to keep your space safe and pest-free. From ants to rodents, termites to spiders, our expert team is here to help with effective, safe, and affordable pest control solutions. Don't wait. Call Pest Away today at 785-728-7166 for fast, reliable service. Your home or business deserves the best protection.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Thursday, July 10th. On the overnight last night, September corn lower 2 cents at $3.97 1/4. December down 1 3/4 at $4.13 3/4. March down 1 1/2 at $4.30 3/4. May down 1 1/2 at $4.41 1/2. August beans down 4 1/2 at $10.04 1/2. September down 3 1/4 at $9.94 1/4. November down 1 3/4 at $10.05 1/2. January down 1 3/4 at $10.22 1/4. Chicago wheat, the September contract higher 5 1/2 at $5.52 1/2. December up 4 3/4 at $5.72. March up 5 1/4 at $5.90 1/2. May soft wheat up 5 1/4 at $6.01 1/2. Kansas City wheat, the September contract higher 8 cents at $5.32. December up 7 at $5.54 3/4. March up 7 1/4 at $5.77 1/4. May up 6 3/4 at $5.90 1/2. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $82 at 44,637. The S&P down 6 at 6,301. The Nasdaq down $6 at 23,046. Gold higher $12 an ounce at 3,333. Crude oil down 67 cents a barrel at $67.71. If you have any questions about marketing grain or would like to talk about risk management options, give our Colorado office a call. John Hanke or John Stiles at 970-744-4484, or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Pluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades.
Real Results Yield Challenge and experience the difference it makes in your fields. And when you share your experience with us, you'll get a chance to win a 2-year lease on a new truck. Sign up at yieldchallenge.basf.us. No purchase necessary. See official rules for details. Always read and follow label directions.
From the locker room to your morning commute, it's all sports, all the time.
It's all they talk about.
This is the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
Oh, here we go. Feel it in my soul. Really need it so good.
7:35 Mountain, 8:35 Central Time. Kind of become a little overcast here over the last couple of minutes here in Goodland. But once again, that's going to burn off today. We'll get temperatures in the mid-90s. Like I said, some chances of some stuff coming in of the severe weather type. Some scattered thunderstorms starting around 3 Mountain, 4 Central Time this afternoon. Let's go to the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware Hotline. We're joined by our good friend Riley Gates of On3 Sports. Good morning, sir. Are you still basking in the glory of your Florida Panthers? That's the first question I have.
Oh, from time to time you kind of go back to normal day, but then you go, oh yeah, that did happen, and you pull up some YouTube clips and you run it back. So yeah, the other thing was all the shirts and whatever I bought were all on shipping delay, and then I went to Minnesota last week, so I came home and I had 5 packages. They all ship separately too, they can't just put it all in one package. So I had 5 packages sitting there waiting for me. So it was a nice little reminder.
How was the yearly trip up to the state with 10,000 lakes?
It was hotter, actually. Probably the hottest it's been since I've ever gone up there. And not to say that it was Kansas hot, 102 or anything like that, but I'm usually used to it being 80s-ish, maybe 70s, and gets kind of chilly. And it was pushing 90s up there, and didn't really have much hoodie weather, so it was a little bit different, but it was good, and got a real nice tan, so that was pretty good.
Well, that had to also make you, getting that water had to feel a little bit better too, I'm guessing, when it was that hot out.
Oh yeah, nice, and it was a nice it was cold, but it wasn't too cold, so yeah, it was. I can't complain. We had a real good week up there.
Riley Gates, once again, our guest from On3 Sports. I'm glad you got vacation because it's getting busy time for you guys there at On3 with Big 12 football media days getting rolling here on Tuesday. Excuse me, they wrapped up yesterday on Wednesday. What's kind of the big things that stood out to you? What were you looking to learn, and what did you learn from Big 12 football media days over these last couple days?
I think just with every year in the Big 12, it's kind of what the storyline is always going to be. It's Deion Sanders, it's Colorado. That's the headliner, whether you are a Colorado fan, whether you're a Colorado hater, whatever it is, that's kind of where your eyes go right now. And I think Deion definitely did a very good job yesterday of grabbing some headlines and kind of being a little bit of the story. And he's not the first person to call for a salary cap amid all of these NIL and player rev share changes, but he's certainly made some headlines with it and put himself in that category. So I thought his comments were kind of interesting, and not that I necessarily disagree or agree with them. It's just I guess I didn't expect it to come from him. I kind of figured he would be maybe more a little bit in the background and not somebody to kind of take the stand against this, but he really put himself out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then just kind of overall, the whole league was going at an angle of we're going to be the deepest conference. We're going to be the littlest gap from champion to bottom, which is, I understand the angle they're going at. They want to put it out there quick and early that the Big 12 is all the same. It's all good. There's no bad losses in the Big 12, and that's kind of what you have to do for this league. I'm just not sure it's going to necessarily go the way they think it's going to go when it comes to that debate.
How important is it for the Big 12 in the next couple of years have a program start to stand out and become kind of like the team to beat, like Oklahoma and Texas were for many years in the Big 12?
I think you need it because you can't have it be somebody different every year and look like your league doesn't have what's the word I want to go with here? It doesn't have a strong backbone, I guess. It was Arizona State last year in the playoff, right? And then let's say it's K-State this year, and then the next year after that it's Colorado. I don't know. I'm just picking random teams, but it just, whoever it is, if it's constantly changing every year, that kind of shows that you don't really have that stability, or you don't have, like you said, the team that's going to pull ahead of the crowd. And I'm not sure that necessarily you like parity as a fan, you like to see different teams, but also at the same time, I do think it's valuable. I think in the SEC, you look to Alabama, you look to Georgia, you look to LSU sometimes. It's where to expect. And I do think the Big 12 needs that, whether they realize it or whether they don't.
Well, one reason why, and I think there's a big reason, the same conversation ties into them getting rid of their preseason media poll. How did you feel about that when they said they weren't going to announce who they think could be, or allow the media to announce, who's going to be possibly the winner? And I've said this for a long time, Riley. I've said, I think kind of polls and rankings early on in the season are kind of dumb because Like the teams are just, they're so different from year in to year out anymore. It's hard to kind of do that, but we do it because it's something to talk about over the summer months.
Yeah, I mean, it's good content for us. And so in that angle, it's nice. I'm cool with them getting rid of it because I'm on your side. It just doesn't mean anything. Like, why should I care who is, ranked fourth in the polls? Because it's not going to really matter at the end of the day. Like, you're going to play it out on the field. So I'm cool with them getting rid of it. The one thing I didn't like, Ross, was the fact that they took it as it hurt the Big 12 was what the coaches were campaigning. They were like, oh, well, Arizona State was picked last in the league, and then that really hurt their season when it came to the playoff and kind of how they were viewed. And I didn't really understand what they meant, I guess, by that, because Arizona State won the Big 12 and they got the automatic bye in there. So it's like, I was just like, what? I don't really know what you're getting at. I don't really know what hurt them.
I think they mean that they could have been seated better. They got the bye, but they could have been on the other game, which meant they could have possibly had an easier second game to win. Possibly, I think that's what they mean by that. I think. Yeah, and I mean, it sure could have gone that way. I just think also, though, you kind of have to understand you're the Big 12. You're not going to get the matter or the benefit of the doubt over the Big 10 and the SEC. So I don't know. I mean, I'm cool with them getting rid of it. The one thing I didn't like was the fact that they get rid of it and then they do the preseason all Big 12 team. I was just like, okay, well, if we're going to do one, why don't we do the other type of thing? But it's not that big a deal. It just kind of caught me off guard a little bit, I guess. I mean, as Coach Kleiman put it, and I'm sure you saw these comments, he's described it as, without doing the poll, everyone starts at the same spot. Instead of having, like Arizona State start in the back of the pack and then end up winning the whole thing, which makes the rest of the conference not look that strong. Now you all start an even playing field. You don't know who could be good. You don't know who could be bad. And so you just start out, well, hey, no one knew who predicted this would be that good. And so we'll see who ends up doing it. I honestly am fascinated to see if this actually impacts anything whatsoever. I really am. Yeah, and I mean, it'd sure be great if we could do it too with the AP poll. Oh, yes. Oh, my. I'm sitting here wishing away some of the best content for my company. Don't let my boss hear that. I'm with you. But it's just like, okay, I don't know. Whoever's going to be first in the poll this year, probably Texas. Some team's going to be like 12 to start the year, let's say, and then somebody's going to beat them, and it's going to go down as a good win. But then that team that's ranked preseason 12, they could end up going 7-5, and turns out they're not that good of a team. But we earmarked them as a good win in September. Why? Because of the preseason polls. So yeah, I'm all in favor of getting rid of polls. I don't need them. I don't care about them. I don't really let them dictate what I think until kind of the season plays out a little bit. But I've also been around the sport long enough to know they're not going anywhere. Riley Gates, once again, is our guest on 3 Sports, joining us on the Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware hotline here on this Thursday morning. Do you think the Big 12 is in the right position of wanting this 5+11 playoff format? Do you think that's actually the best thing for them? That's a loaded question because I think it's the format I respect. The earn your way in. We want to prove it on the field, and I like that. I'm just not sure it'll get them what they. You're going to have 2 really good teams to be able to earn that way in. I'm looking just now. Brett McMurphy, who just joined our team this month, polled the coaches yesterday or throughout the last 2 days, and he says the league coaches voted for K-State and Iowa State to meet in the Big 12 championship this year. Okay, so let's just play that game. One of the teams is going to win. They're going to get in on the bye or on the automatic bid. It's like, okay, so that team's in. What about the other team? Are they going to get an at-large spot just because they made the Big 12 championship game? They're going to have to be 11-1 entering the game, maybe even or I guess they can't be 12-0 because they're playing each other. They're going to have to be 11-1 going into that game that they lose and hope that the rest of the field shakes out their way. The Big 12 is always going to be behind the 8 ball just because of all this realignment. It's just not viewed the same as the ACC or the SEC and the Big 10 are. And so you're going to have to really, really prove it and make a really strong case that you deserve 2 teams. So, the other formats where
it's giving the Big 12 2 spots in there, would benefit the Big 12 more in terms of getting teams in automatically. But you're sacrificing, 4 spots for the other teams. So, like I said, it's a loaded question because I'm not really sure what is best at the end of the day. But I do like the mindset of we want to earn it and we want to prove that we deserve it rather than just hand it to us.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I feel like for them, guaranteeing them 2 spots is certainly a good spot to be in, more than the possibility of getting just 1, like they did last year.
And then you could prove it on the field in the playoff. If
that's
you
right.
want to prove it, it's like, okay, prove it by beating somebody in the playoff.
And let's face it, they're going to have to do that. Like, that's going to have to happen. Like this process
at some
that
point
they
you got to beat the good team.
Right. The Big 12 wants to be considered one of the big dogs, and that's perfectly fine. And they can sit there and talk about it till they're blue in the face and say that they are one of the big dogs, but they got to go out and they got to do it on the field and in the playoff. And if Arizona State would have beaten Texas last year, let's just say, that would have been a humongous step for the Big 12 in doing that, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. So they're kind of still right where they were last year.
Yeah, I mean, you can get in all you want and lose games, but if you just get in and lose and you don't win anything, you kind of start looking like a participation trophy team or conference. So yeah, whatever format it is, at the end of the day, prove it, either get in or prove it on the field once you get in the playoff. But yeah, you're going to have to start knocking off some teams if you want some respect. That's for sure. Riley
Gates, once again, our friend from On3 Sports, joining us here. Was there anything else that was really big, or anything that stood out to you from maybe the coaches? I feel like isn't it amazing to you, because it is to me, about how all the coaches, and I'm guessing administrators too, that lead these coaches, that are backing these coaches, all seem to be on the same boat about, recruiting calendar and the portal and then, of course, money spent on players. It's amazing. Everyone seems on the same page, yet no one ever seems to get anything figured out. Isn't that just nuts?
Yeah, it's like they had a conference call before they went up there. These are our talking points, and this is going to be our answer. Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. No, Ross, you told me any former Nebraska coach make any headlines this week with
Lord,
comments about Nebraska?
I've got a whole segment. I've got a whole segment for that planned after you get off the phone. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I just I'll just touch on it real briefly, and then
you go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
I thought it was very interesting that Scott Frost would leave UCF in 2017 for the chance to go to a school where he says, I can win a national championship here. It's bigger, it's better, it's this and it's that. And now you're going back to the school that you left for the bigger opportunity. So it's kind of hard. I understand UCF fans really like him, and he brought them all this glory and all this fun. I think it would just feel very like you went back to the girl that cheated on you, and you're telling yourself that you got a great thing going, and it's okay. We moved past it, but it's always going to be there at the end of the day. And look, it would be kind of fun if he brings them back and puts UCF on the map again. But I think UCF hired Scott Frost again to sell some tickets and to ignite some excitement. And if you want my honest opinion, I think this is going to be a disaster, because I don't really know that he thought those comments through all that much. And I think when you really break everything down, this is more of a, hey, this is on you. It wasn't on Nebraska. It wasn't on UCF. This is on you as the coach. So, yeah, that was a really interesting set of circumstances there.
It was kind of sad because I was watching the first day and they went to him on the podium, and for just a second I was like, oh, that's right, he's going to be at media days today. And then all of a sudden it happened like when I used to watch him for my beloved Huskers. My skin would just kind of cringe because he is not media savvy in any way, shape, or form.
No. He better hope the results on the field turn out.
Oh, because, that's a fact.
Boy, his career is going to take a massive turn in its narrative if he can't if he struggles like he struggled at Nebraska at UCF. Oh boy, that's just not good.
Nope, it's gonna be rough. But you're right, you're exactly right. I think that was one of the bigger headlines that was just odd. But I've got more comments on that in the next segment, so I will save it for that. So.
I bet you do. I bet you got a real nice rant plan.
He is Riley Gates of On3 Sports. Riley, it's always great to catch up, my friend. We'll do it again soon. Guess what? I think we're only 7 weeks away? No, or less than that. We're less like 6.5 weeks away from football.
It's 1 month, and then about a week after that. See, I think it's August 23rd or something like that is when
August
JSA's
23rd,
playing in
baby.
Ireland. So
that's right.
It'll be here before we know it, man.
Get out your bagpipes. No, that's not it. That's Scotland. Never mind. Get out your Guinness beer. All right, Riley Gates. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and we'll catch up soon.
You betcha. Anytime.
Once again, great stuff there from Riley Gates. Great, fun conversation talking about Big 12 football media days. All right, we're going to get to a quick break. We'll come back. Like I said, we've got Look at Yourself up next in the Blitz.
At FNB Bank, we know family comes first. Whether you're opening a savings account for your kids, buying a new home, or planning for the future, we're here to help every step of the way. With personalized service and flexible options, we make banking easy for your growing family. FNB Bank, serving families, strengthening communities. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Summer deals are heating up at Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland. Right now, get up to $7,000 off a brand new 25 GMC Sierra 1500 Pro, or choose 0% APR for 36 months plus no payments for 90 days on select 25 Sierra 1500s. Need more muscle? Drive off in a 25 Sierra 3500 with 3.9% APR for 48 months, or grab $2,750 select market purchase allowance. GMC, professional grade. These offers won't last. Swing by Hurl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland today, online at hurlchev.com.
Summer is heating up, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby has everything you need to make the most of it. Tame that lawn with top-notch weed and feed from Ultimate Fertilizer, and keep those bugs away with powerful pesticides. Plus, Ego mower blowers and trimmers to get that job done fast. Fire up some summer flavor with a Traeger grill or a Blackstone griddle, and if you're building a fence or even fixing a sprinkler, they've got the building materials and supplies to keep your projects moving. Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, your summer project headquarters.
The only way to start your day.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
With Ross Volkmer in the Morning Blitz.
All right, just a couple of minutes left to go in the show. We'll get to the walk-off here in just a little bit. But, yeah, it's a great conversation with Riley Gates. It's like I said, a lot of those great topics that I have with him and discuss them, and just we usually see it the same way. It just seems like, but yeah, we'll see what happens here in the coming weeks and months and years for Big 12 football. I feel like they're gonna have to find a way to become. They're gonna have to find a way to get a team or two to be really, really good for a consistent amount of time. Kind of become a team that wins, 2 or 3 consecutive conference, or, maybe wins 3 out of 4 conference titles. And so then they kind of get that power. And then the part 2 of that is that team, or the teams that are representing the Big 12 consistently in the playoff, need to go out there and beat the other teams. Now, they could also do it just by going to the playoff, whoever makes the playoff, and winning those games. That's going to give them the respect they need. But until they do that, they're just probably not going to get it. All right. Time for a little bit of fun here. With some Look at Yourself and Scott Frost.
Growing up in Nebraska, Ross played football for a man named Mark Roeder. And Coach Roeder was known for his interesting phrases.
We're like butter. We're on a roll. Why aren't you? What are you doing? What are you doing? Well.
But the one that sticks out the most with his former players is,
look at yourselves.
It's time to look at who has done wrong with,
look at yourself.
All right, this segment was designed for this type of deal, because you really do have to look at yourself if you are Scott Frost at UCF. I think I was almost not like in shock, but just cannot believe that nothing has changed in the previous years that he has been away. I mean, I think the thing, like I said with Riley Gates, I think the thing that always stood out to me about Scott Frost, whenever he got behind a microphone for a media session, particularly in front of a group of media, it just made my skin crawl, because you knew he might say something that is just going to feel kind of like secondhand embarrassment, or he just could not have a way of playing of it. Not that you have to play to the media, but you've got to somehow, some way be a little bit more media savvy to help your program along. And it's just amazing to me that a guy who was given $35 million was asked to come back to do it. He didn't have a gun held to his head. He makes it sound like as if when they ask him, well, I took this job, it was kind of against my will because people told me I need to come back and do it. You didn't have a gun against your head. Yes, people wanted you to come back and do this job, but you didn't have to. There wasn't a gun there. Now, I understand there's probably some pressure to do that, but you don't have to do it if you didn't want to. But I know one of the biggest reasons why is, he was on top of the world, and he probably thought at that time, I'm not going to win a national championship with UCF because they're a group of 5 team. Little did he know the Big 12 was going to come to the UCF and possibly put it in a little bit better position for them to do that. Nonetheless, it was going to be hard for him to do that. So he thought, well, I'll go to Nebraska and maybe I can do it there. The problem is he was riding so high and he was so confident after doing it in just 2 short years, and pretty much everything came together there at Central Florida. Everything came together. The cupboard wasn't extremely bare. He was able to get some unbelievable performances from guys and play out of their minds. And his system worked in the smaller leagues, and he goes to Nebraska and they just get beat up physically. They don't match up with the same type of players, and he didn't know how to recruit if it wasn't in his own backyard. And anyway, so all these things add up to this stuff. But the biggest thing that just blows my mind about this whole deal is the fact that he does not even want to even mention the fact that he took that job. It's like he is so embarrassed that he did it that he can't even, he's just completely buried it deep in his mind and his soul. He doesn't ever say the word Nebraska. He just, my alma mater, he doesn't want to mention it ever. If people knew the stories about what Scott Frost did when he got there, he had free reign to pretty much do what he wanted. He was the golden boy. He got to, they gave him the great paychecks. They gave him all the resources he needed to try and have success. He didn't do any of it. He was showing up showing up late to practice. He was doing all kinds of bad things, or not bad things, but wrong things behind the scenes that, wasn't helping the team perform at its best. And he gets let go, and everybody at the university, Nebraska, for the most part, was pretty gracious about just saying, we're going to let you go. You may leave and all that stuff. Here's the money and go, and never brought anything up. And all that Scott Frost had to do, I think this is the biggest takeaway that I have from this, is that all you had to do, Scott, when they asked about this, is all you had to do is say something along the lines, that didn't go the way I'd hoped it did. We just didn't have the success that I thought we'd have. Unfortunately, I wish the very best to alma mater in Nebraska, and I thank them for my time there. But I wish Coach Rule and Nebraska the best of luck, and I'm happy to be at UCF. That's all you had to say. It did, and then honestly, that could have been it. And guess what? Everyone would have kind of just gone on, okay, let's talk about UCF. What do you got going on this year? Blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But no, you had to talk about don't take the wrong job. That's what I learned. Don't take the wrong job. I was forced into doing this job. It's pathetic. You're 50 years old. 50! You need to learn how to handle yourself better in these situations. And, he probably won't. He'll just, the thing is, he doesn't understand that when the media is on him, that they're there, and especially if you're tied to Nebraska, anything and everything that is tied to Nebraska, people are going to overanalyze, and you have to find a way to tread softly over it. I just cannot believe a 50-year-old cannot come up with a better comment and just say something just short and sweet, saying, it didn't work out there. I regret that it didn't work out there, but I wish Coach Rule the best, and I'm focused on UCF. That's all you had to say, and it would have been fine. But no. You had to do something along these lines and make yourself look even more like an idiot, I believe, in my personal opinion. So, in the words of Mark Roeder, well,
look at yourself.
That's right, Scott. Look at yourself. Okay, let's get to the walk-off.
High drive, deep left, grand slam!
And back lifts his ball high and deep to right. How about a walk-off Grady? Thomas to the time difference going on in New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
Well, like I said early in the show, Royals with continue to win at a very good clip. Won the sweep the series with the Pirates. Won 6 of their last 7. They'll have an interesting test against the Mets this weekend. The Mets have kind of been up and down throughout this entire year. But boy, the long ball, that was the big stat. Once again, 9 home runs in that series against the Pirates. They had 15 homers prior. And Jack Caglione's 466-foot shot was just an absolute tank. Absolute tank. 4th longest homer ever hit by a Royal in Kauffman Stadium since StatCast began. 4th longest home run ever. It was just an absolute beast of a shot from Jack Caglione. I expect that we're going to see a whole lot. We're going to see more of that. Hopefully what we've seen is Jack hit back-to-back games with homers. Maybe he's starting to find that groove. And when you find that groove like he found all through the minor leagues, one's going to think you're going to be able to put it all together. That's my thought. So hopefully that continues. But, man, even Salvi was hitting the ball a lot. And the weather is playing a big factor in that. The heat helping the ball fly. Like I said, he had a 444-foot shot, and that is still a bomb, if you're being honest with it. But Royals playing some good baseball. Both them and the Rockies, Kansas City and the Rockies, off today, and they will resume play on Friday. Once again, Mets at home for the Royals, Rockies on the road in Cincinnati. That'll do it for our program today. We're back again tomorrow in 23 hours. Hope you join us for our final show of the week on a Friday. It's been The Blitz. Have a good day.
Classic rock plays here. This is Rocket 102.5 KK.